A couple of notes to mention before we begin the round of South Carolina. Goodyear has introduced a new tire compound specifically for road courses, especially for this track, because of the lack of ability to pass during the heat races, and because of that, they sent in a new hopefully grippier tire compound, but that and gave the drivers a practice session to get used to it. The drivers were very happy with it, as it allowed more passing opportunities, and the fans also enjoyed it, considering, well, now there's more to watch. Another thing that I should probably mention is that the after qualifying format for the event after the heat races that determines which line is on the inside. The Heat 1 or Heat 2. So far, for all three races, Heat 1 has ended up on the inside, and people might think that Heat 1 will always get on the inside, and that is not the case. It is simply a coincidence. The current setup is that the winner of each heat race, so in this case Damir Bezhanov and Chris Washer, are put into a 5-minute, are allowed a 5-minute practice session to post their fastest lap, and whoever has the faster lap gets the pole. And the rest of the drivers in their heat start on the inside unless they've gone to a backup car. So without further ado, here's the race. As previously stated, Damir Bezhanov in the 13 car would grab the pole. Richard Trelinsky in the 71 car would blow a motor on the start, so he would bring it into the pits and go out of the race before it even really began. Chris Washer, who started on his outside in the 5 car, would not get a terribly good run into turn 1, and Damir would clear him temporarily. However, Chris Washer would be able to hold a charge on the outside, and coming into the right-hand turn 3, Chris Washer would be able to take the lead as they went through the S's. Michael Caine is trying to follow Chris Washer through, but would not be able to do so as they reach the end of the S's here. Even though we're only on lap 1, you can already see that the tire compound has made things especially racy, a lot more racy around this section of the track, as we see many lanes still racing 2, perhaps even 3 wide through the chicane, safely, believe it or not, and they are still 2 wide as we come down to complete lap 1. Ilya Bondarenko started this race in 6th place, but coming onto the 3rd lap, he's already made his way up into 2nd here, as he might even be able to challenge Chris Washer for the lead. Battling for 8th place, Jacob Young would get into, William Duncan would get into Jacob Young. Jacob Young would end up off track, trying to get back on, but that barrier was there, and there was nothing he could do about it. Jacob Young would go out of the race from that impact. Around midfield, coming into turn 2, Johnny Finguy would get to the inside of Dakota Honecker, but Sawyer Girl was already there. Because of that, Johnny spun off of Sawyer's front bumper. This would bring up the caution, although I don't know why he was well off the racing surface and ended up coming back on. And up ahead, Matthew Nicholson would also have some trouble. Ophelia Endumian in the 2 was getting tired of being behind Matthew Nicholson, made some contact with Matthew and sent him off the road. Matthew would avoid the outside wall, though, with some great car control, and would come away unscathed. Under the caution flag, most of the lead drivers would stay out, but quite a few of them came in, as we see about half the field, most of the back markers come in to get fuel and tires. I don't know why they're coming in this early, but we'll have to see how that strategy works out in the end. Chris Washer in the 5 would lead the field back to the green flag just a lap later. Damir Bezhanov is trying to get a run on Ilya Bondarenko to retake the 2nd spot. Ilya got a nice run off of turn 1 there and is actually going for the lead on Chris Washer right now on the outside. This is one of the best places to do it. Damir hounding Chris Washer. Ilya Bonarenko trying to hold on now on the inside of this corner, and Ilya Bonarenko is going to take the lead. Velvet Works racing cars are really going on a tear here as Carl and Dumian just turned Kyle Sosnowski down into the inside wall. That would bring up the caution. Everyone would avoid him except for Matthew Stringer, who got a little bit of a piece there. Shouldn't be too much damage for him. Under this caution, all the cars that hadn't already pitted came down pit road, so the strategy pulled by the previous drivers really paid off there, as Andreas Allen is going to be your new leader here. All the drivers are still going to need to make one more pit stop unless we have a lot more cautions, though. Andreas Allen, the 39, would bring the field back to the green flag. Mark Nutt in the 0 is in second, and Mike Doan currently rounds out the top 3. Mike Doan having to go on Mark Nutt right now. Doesn't look like he's going to make it stick. Mark Nutt gets a nice run along the outside and clears him before we even hit turn 2. Very nice job by Mark Nutt holding off Mike Doan in a very clean way. Here comes Dakota Honecker trying to take third from Mike Doan. Through the S's, he would be able to do so. We've got a lot of drivers doing surprisingly poorly considering their reputations today here at the round of South Carolina. Skylar Dixon's definitely one of them. He's only made up around 10 spots, and we're over a third into the race, which is definitely a bit of a change for him. Spencer Fullerton also not doing terribly well in the 73 car. He has a history of, well, finishing in the top 15 in every single road race last year, including top 5s in all but one. So, not a particularly good day for a couple of these guys. Johnny Finguy being particularly aggressive today as he sends Michael Kane down into the wall. Michael would stay on the racetrack, but would end up losing a lap on pit road. Not a good start to the day for Michael. Dakota Honecker, who had taken third from Mike Doan and was challenging Mark Nutt for a while, did not have a very good chicane. Was racing with Mike Doan through there, and Mike Doan would retake the third spot. Sawyer Girl moved up into the fourth spot now, and William Nicholson and the 100 of Luke Walker are looking like they're going to go by him as well. Dakota Honecker gets freight trained. As we begin to come up on Michael Kane, Mark Nutt has gotten to the inside of Andreas Allen. This is one of his best shots so far to get around him. Got a run on the front stretch, still on the outside into this corner. Andreas has a nice corner, and he has the advantage going into the S's, so Andreas will hold on to the lead. As we head into the chicane, the straightaways are Michael Kane's main problem right now, and he is really holding up the field now. He had to really check up to get through that chicane safely, and because of that, the top 3 have broken away, and everyone else is having a lot of trouble getting around him here. As finally the outside will prevail, and Sawyer Girl, Luke Walker, William Nicholson, and Ophelia Ndumian will become the first drivers to get around him safely. Coming down into turn 1, Matthew Stringer would try to get around Spencer Fullerton. Spencer would throw the block, and Matt would turn him down into the inside wall. Can't imagine Spencer's very happy with him right now, as Matthew Stringer has been ordered to talk with the officials after the race about that incident, because that looked pretty blatant to me. Field is really spread out, and James O'Shea was already running at the back, but this is definitely not going to help as James O'Shea blows a tire. However, we are coming up on green flag pit stop, so this is a great time for him to fuel up, and perhaps he'll stay on the lead lap. Running 30th and 31st, we had a really close call as Tyler Faber tried to get to the inside of Paul Swanson and ended up getting into the back quarter panel of him, and they went down nearly hitting the inside wall there, but they will continue on. Paul Swanson, I'm assuming, isn't, best friends with Tyler Faber right now. It would become very hard to pass as the tires wore out, and with 10 laps to go, Andreas Allen and Mark Nutt would come into the pits. So things really haven't changed up in the top 3, or really in a lot of the field in quite a few laps. A lap later, the only car left out of that main pack that has not come in yet, Mike Doan in the 72 car, who was out there without drafting help for a lap, decided to pull in and complete his green flag pit stop. This would let Jeffrey Finguy inherit the lead in the 20 car, but a lap later he would pull it into the pits as well, along with Skylar Dixon. A lap after that, third and fourth in the leading pack, Pichu London and Damir Bejianov would pull it in, leaving Chris Washer and Ilya Bondarenko as the two only cars left on the racetrack. Just after having his pit stop, about a lap later, Carlin Dumian's engine would go, and he would end up having to come to stop on the racing, very close to the racing line, leading to some interesting action there as Kyle Sosnowski and Terrence Day have to go 3 wide around him there. This would bring out our third caution of the race. Under caution, the top two that had yet to pit, Chris Washer and Ilya Bondarenko, would come into the pits, along with Sawyer Girl, whose engine went in turn 3 under caution. Unfortunate for him, he was having a very nice run, perhaps even enough to get a top 5. So, with just 4 laps to go, Andreas Allen would lead the field back to the green flag. He had a great pit stop and was about 2 seconds ahead of Mark Nutt and Mike Doan, who were drafting to try and catch him. And he definitely didn't want to see that caution, but he is once again driving away from second and third place as Mike Doan once again tries to get around Mark Nutt. That is not the best place to be trying to do it. The outside is very strong there, and Mark Nutt will hold on to the second position as now William Nicholson will get to the inside of Mike Doan and move into third. We had a close call coming onto the front stretch with Pichu London and Skylar Dixon getting together. That almost mirrored Skylar Dixon's crash in turn 3 earlier in the week, where he was sent up the track. But luckily, they would hold on and not cause any unnecessary problems. Inevitably, Ophelia and Dumian would get what was coming to him, as Jeffrey Finguy would get into him off of turn 3 and send him into the inside wall. Ophelia would be able to continue though, but he would bring out the caution with his spin in front of the pack there. Andreas Allen would lead the field down to the caution flag. There was just 1 lap to go, so we are going to a green-white checkered. This is not exactly what Andreas really did not want, as now he's going to have a hungry Mark Nutt on his outside and basically the whole field within his sights. Nevertheless, Andreas Allen would lead the field of 30 cars down to the green flag for the first attempt at a green-white checkered here for the round of South Carolina. The only car that was on track that was not allowed in the green-white checkered was Michael Caine, as he was a lap down. Everyone had the chance to repair their damage there, so we should have an interesting race here. Andreas Allen easily clears Mark Nutt down into turn 1. William Nicholson trying to move into second. Mark Nutt having a nice run on the inside, but hold on to that position. Not enough to go and challenge Andreas Allen. He's got some work to do if he wants to catch Andreas. As we come down to the white flag, Andreas has dominated the last 20 laps, but here comes Mark Nutt on the inside. With some help from Mike Doan and William Nicholson, they really dive it off into turn 1. Andreas holds back a little there, but gets a great run out. Andreas trying to hold on the outside. Mark Nutt still with a nice charge, inching ahead on the inside. Andreas with a very nice run off of turn 2. Tries to force Mark Nutt up as far as he can, nearly makes contact with Mark Nutt there, and Andreas Allen holds on to the lead. Andreas Allen's so close to winning now, got just a couple of corners to go. Andreas has run a perfect race, made the right pit strategy, had 2 great pit stops, and has been holding off the field all day. He's in his 43rd career race. He's been waiting for this for so long, and finally Andreas has the chance to finally come down and get his first career victory here in the round of South Carolina. Mark Nutt in the 0 came across the line second. His second top 2 finish this season. William Nicholson gets third. Jeffrey Finguy comes across the line in 4th and takes the points lead. Mike Doan gets across the line in 5th. He was in the top 3 for most of the day, but wasn't quite able to capitalize any further than that. Dakota Honaker gets 6th despite being shuffled back a bit earlier in the race. TJ Dent gets a nice 7th place finish. Pichu London grabs 8th. Mirvasianov, despite getting the pole, gets shuffled back to 9th. And Skylar Dixon picks up 26 spots in this race to get another top 10 finish.